as a mayor, I'll be sending legislation to the city council to ban the sale of e-cigarettes to minors. This is something that's been in the news a lot lately. I've talked to folks around the country. You need to put that here? You're welcome to do that. If you'd like me to start over again, I can certainly do that. Did you get your white and all that?
I got it. Thank
You got it? Okay. All right, let me start again. So today we're announcing that I'll be sending legislation to the city council. We'll hopefully get it there at one of the December meetings, if not the first meeting in January, that will outlaw the sale of e-cigarettes to minors. We know this is an important issue. It's an emerging issue across the country. It's an issue that's causing a lot of concern to a lot of folks. Today I've got with me is Dr. Pawita Kasemsap, who's a local pediatrician, who's been talking to us about this issue, as well as Johanna Rudy, who's the executive director of the American Academy of Pediatrics, who we're expecting today, but hasn't been able to arrive at City Hall just yet. But the reason we're doing this is because there's some alarming statistics out there showing the disproportionate use of e-cigarettes by children, and the fact is we don't have the legislation and ordinances in place right now to stop the sale of e-cigarettes to children. And one of the great things about being a mayor and being in the city is we have the ability to be agile. We can do things from a protection standpoint, in this case for children, far quicker than folks can do it at the federal level, regulators at the state level, and legislators as well. So we're going to get this legislation right down to the city council, and we want to get this done quickly and get this into place. A couple of things that I think are very alarming. A survey by the Center of Disease Control and Prevention found that 1 in 10 high school students have admitted using e-cigarettes. And according to the National Youth Tobacco Survey, use of e-cigarettes among middle and high school students doubled from 2011 to 2012. And there's also substantial evidence that flavored cigarettes are a starter product for youth who begin smoking. In fact, kids ages 12 to 17 smoke flavored cigarettes at a higher rate than any other age group. So we want to make sure that we're, as a city, getting on the forefront of this issue. I know that we'll have robust support in the city council. We're going to send this down without a sponsor, and we'll just allow the new council president will be elected at the next meeting, and we will allow the new president of the council to either endorse this legislation himself or herself, or we will look for city councilors. But with a couple of conversations we've had, this should be a no-brainer at the city council level. We know that it's already illegal to sell alcohol and tobacco to kids, so it only makes sense to further protect children through this type of legislation. Preventing youth from taking up smoking, I think, is a very key strategy in lowering the smoking rates overall and improving the health of our community as a whole. Electronic cigarettes, or e-cigarettes as they're commonly known, are essentially nicotine delivery products, relatively new to the market and a growing following. Unfortunately, many of those are youth. This legislation would ban the sale of e-cigarettes to minors. It would require e-cigarette dealers to be licensed and move cigarettes from in front of the counter to behind the counter. And if you're, what I'm talking about there is when you walk into a convenience store now, you'll see the tobacco products are behind the counter, not where they can be in easy reach. They have to be handled by one of the clerks, and that's what this will do. So for all intents and purposes, what we will do is we'll put e-cigarettes in the same category as tobacco cigarettes. But we also will be crafting the legislation to have some agility, if you will. We know that the technology is changing very quickly, so we'll try to write the legislation in a comprehensive way so that it can capture some of the new products that are coming online on a regular basis, so we don't have to amend the legislation as often. But if we have to, we will. Oh, there we go. Come on in. So did you want to? Why don't you come on up? This is Joanna, right?
This is Joanna.
Nice. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. I apologize.
So no problem. So we're talking about just some of the things that we're going to try to do with the legislation. We also need parents. If you need to get information that's out there, the American Academy of Pediatrics, AAP, is joining us in urging parents to talk to your kids about the dangers of e-cigarettes. We know that most cartridges have 20 milligrams of nicotine, and a dose of as little as 10 milligrams of nicotine can actually be fatal to a child. And children can easily become hooked on nicotine as well. So I am going to now turn it over for just a minute or two to Johanna Rudy, who's the Executive Director of the American Academy of Pediatrics. Thank you for joining us today, and tell you a little bit about from the pediatrician's perspective on why this is important. So, Joanna.
Thank you. Well, we at the New Mexico chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics are very pleased to support Mayor Berry in this initiative. We are made up of pediatric healthcare professionals, of course, throughout the state of New Mexico, and we are very concerned about the serious health risks that these devices pose to our teens and to our children and to our families. We, as the mayor mentioned, know that 1 in 10 high school students have used one of these devices in the past, and we know the serious damaging effects that these can have on our kids' health long term. So we are proud to offer our support to you and anything we can do to help you with this initiative. And we urge parents to be really mindful of the dangers of these devices and to do what you can to restrict the access to these in your homes as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate it very much. With that, we could open it up for questions, or we can, if you'd like to do one-on-ones, if you like, however you'd like to do it. But that will conclude our press conference for this issue.
I just have a quick question. How similar to the current tobacco laws will this legislation?
Well, actually, we think, having done some studies around the country myself on this and having talked to individuals around the country, the legislation itself does not have to be overly complicated. We simply include a description of what an e-cigarette is, both the current description and what we think it might morph into in the near future into the ordinance. So it's already illegal to sell tobacco products to minors. Now we'll include language that's we may cross out tobacco cigarettes with tobacco containing or nicotine containing devices, and that's where we will rely on the American Academy of Pediatricians and others around the country to do this. And actually, industry itself, the tobacco industry, actually has done some proactive things around the country to try to curb the sale of this product to minors. So we have to give them some credit here as well, and I'm happy to do that. So we'll craft the legislation simply as we can, just to make it included in the mix, so that those who deal in these products know that they're not for sale to minors. Shouldn't be overly complicated. That's easy to say. With legislation, sometimes it can get complicated, but we'll keep it as simple as we can.
So essentially, it's the same rules would apply, right, as cigarettes and.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. We'll just we'll change the definition of what's illegal to sell to minors, and it'll include cigarettes, obviously, alcohol, obviously is there already, but we'll also include a definition of e-cigarettes, and we'll use the most comprehensive current definition that we have for that product.
How soon are you hoping to, if you're able to present this in December, say, or early January, will this actually be seen in effect?
We're gonna ask the new council president, who will be elected at the next meeting, I believe, to push this through. I'd like to see this get through committee quickly, get to the dais, get voted. I expect a 9-0 vote from our councilors on this, and I would assume that we will get that and get this implemented as quickly as possible, so that we can, but this will help us getting the message out today that our local vendors will know that this is coming. I will put all the force and power of the mayor's office behind this to make sure it gets through, and then we will engage the business community to let them know that it is now illegal to do that. Take these products out from in front of the counter, put them behind the counter, and then put them in the same category as you would regular cigarettes.
What would be the penalty for violating the ban? Or has that been?
It'll be the same as selling tobacco products to youth. And was that? Yeah, it's a $500 fine, 90 days in jail. I would assume that's most misdemeanor fines. Dan, I will confirm that for you. Yes, Dan.
What about vapor lounges? They're kind of like tobacco lounges, cigar stores. Did this legislation change the vapor lounges to work more like a cigar store as well?
Well, that's something we can look at, certainly. I mean, the first thing we want to do is make it illegal to sell these products to minors across the counter. But we have issues with hookah lounges. We have issues with, certainly we've been able to outlaw spice. And I'm not trying to equate those two together, because they don't go together they don't necessarily go together. But we'll want to make sure that we're keeping our youth out of harm's way. And that's something that will certainly be looked at. But preliminarily, the legislation will ban the sale to minors.